So there's this video going around by this guy called X Sunny Sunset. He's a streamer on Twitch, and he was talking about the police chase in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Spider-Man lets the Rhino mow down a bunch of people in the middle of this intersection. And what he said here caused the video to spread around like wildfire.
All right, here we go. Ready? Bow. That person is dead. Whoever is in the back of that taxi, they are dead. The driver's also probably dead, but the people in the back are definitely dead. He let that happen, by the way. Could have literally, like, look at him. Look at him. Oh my God. Dead. Mega dead. Ultra dead. Super dead. And that's your goat? Look at that car. It's flat. And here's your goat swinging away.
My name is Spiderman. You can call me.
Right now, he could be webbing them up, grabbing the wheel. He could flip the brakes, okay? Right on the brakes, up until the very last moment, and then he swings out while like a dozen people just die. This is not your goat!
And it led to some people posting their responses and their counterpoints, including the guys from the Escape Pod podcast. Now I want to clarify something here. This is not a knock personally against the guys at the Escape Pod or Andrew, who's the one doing the defense here, but this is more or less a response to what he said, and to a bunch of other fans who I guarantee you feel the same way as he does. For anyone who's new to my channel, thank you for tuning in. I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was 12 years old. Tobey Maguire is my favorite, if you couldn't tell by the shirt. He, along with Yuri Lowenthal and Tom Holland, I think are the best three portrayals of the character. I've liked various iterations of the character throughout the years, from the 90s show, Spectacular Spider-Man, some of the video games, and some of the comics that I've read. As for Andrew Garfield's portrayal, I know a lot of people adore him and think that he's the best Spider-Man out of all three. I honestly never really liked his portrayal. For time purposes, I'm not going to go into any of the reasons, but you could check out some of my previous videos from the past. I did a ranking a couple years ago where I more or less articulated it, and I also did some videos back in 2017, which probably look and sound like garbage right about now. They're somewhere in the background on my channel if you're curious. I think he was used the best in No Way Home. I think the Swan Song treatment that he got there, it made me appreciate what he was able to do. When you have the Marvel Studios creative team in your corner, you're bound to be in at least some good hands there. As for my thoughts on the Escape Pod podcast, I do follow them on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I wouldn't say they're the most substantive conversations that I've heard. There's some really good conversations that have come out of it, but mostly it just comes off as like a big movie fight session, similar to the Screen Junkies movie fights. I don't know if they're still on anymore. I kind of see them along the lines of Piers Morgan Uncensored, where instead of exploring different ideas to get to the correct answer or some sort of mutual understanding, it's basically like a giant rhetorical brawl. I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but what they both have in common is that they're wildly entertaining. So good on the Escape Pod for getting an X amount of videos and views. And I'm all for people having different perspectives, but in the case of Amazing Spider-Man 2, I wanted to claw my damn eyes out here, and I'm gonna try really hard not to come off as petty and entitled. But I can't promise you anything. I just feel like I have to address some of the things he said, because I found that he was really reaching and doing a lot of mental gymnastics that you'd have to watch the video for yourself if you feel similar to how I do. Basically, here's the gist of what he said.
But it's not like he's swinging away just because he's swinging away. He's swinging away to go save somebody else who was in the middle of the street and who would have definitely died. It's not, for example, like in Homecoming, every single person on that boat would have died, and it would have been Peter's fault if he wasn't helped or saved by Iron Man. Yeah, he saved them in the Washington Monument. Again, that was his fault for blowing it up in the first place. There's also an entire storyline in Tobey's trilogy where he gives up being Spider-Man for a large portion of his own movie, not because his girlfriend was brutally murdered or anything, but because he just wanted to read MJ poetry. And he literally watches an ambulance fly down the street to where people could be dying, and he eats a hot dog and walks away.
But here's the problem with that. Once Spider-Man gets to the truck, we're greeted with this.
Mr. Criminal. Hey, my name is Spider-Man. You can call me Webhead. You can call me Amazing. Just don't call me late for dinner. You get it? You a hugger?
Item killer!
Whoa! Okay.
I know this is going to sound extreme, but I hate that scene. I absolutely loathe it. Despise it. He clowns around for a couple of minutes, and then he swings away to save Max while the Rhino's in the middle of this rampage mowing down a bunch of innocent people. Spider-Man is supposed to be a hero. In that situation, he would have done everything at his disposal to try to stop that truck. He wouldn't have clowned around like Deadpool for a few minutes, just trying to poke fun at the Rhino for the sake of it. This is just a symptom of the Amazing Spider-Man movies doing everything at their disposal to cater to the fans who want to see certain things in a Spider-Man movie. Because Tobey didn't have any jokes up to their standards, they decided to overcompensate compensate, just like in the car thief scene in the first film. Yes, I understand that there's a bioweapon in there, but the first priority should be to stop the truck and not clown around like he's Wade Wilson. And I know some people will say that's part of his character, he's the trash talker. I get that, yes. If you make him too silly and stupid, you take out the risk, you take out the sense of threat that's supposed to come with it. And at least in this situation, on my end anyway, he doesn't really seem to care. He does save Max, yes, but all the other people that the Rhino's barreling towards in his truck? The actual Spider-Man would have done everything to make sure that that didn't happen. Tobey's Spider-Man was able to stop that, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man, similar thing. In the ATM scene, when he stops the guys wearing the Avengers masks, or tries to stop them, one of them accidentally shoots a laser towards that bodega across the street, and he drops everything to make sure that the owner's okay. Tobey's Spider-Man does a similar thing. Okay, he may not joke around really in those sequences, but his first priority is to stop the bad guys from doing what they're doing and make sure that nobody gets hurt. I'm not the only one to say this. I don't know if Chris Stuckman feels the same way now, but he said this some time ago when he revisited the movie.
So the Rhino's going around causing all this destruction, and Spider-Man decides to hang around and tell some jokes instead of just stopping him. That he could have just stopped if he wouldn't have told those quips that the fans wanted to hear so much that the screenwriters just were like, hey, we have to please the fans. Who cares about making a coherent film and portraying Spider-Man as a hero that saves lives? He wants to tell some jokes while causing a shit ton of destruction in his path along the way.
Also, shout out to this guy Trilby, who doesn't do videos anymore, but he had this to say.
Look at this, we have Paul Giamatti racing down the street in an armoured vehicle, running people over, destroying cars, and even shooting out of the window where there are people in the background behind Spider-Man in the line of fire. And Spider-Man is doing nothing but cracking jokes. He makes no attempt to stop the vehicle or stop the driver or at least save people during his rampage until he's done a few minutes of stand-up comedy. That is not Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Who needs that when you can be more like Deadpool?
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Firing his machine gun into the air, where the odds are somebody from a few stories up is looking down on all this destruction going on, might have been hit by a straight bullet. We don't know. All of that destruction is because he had to go off and find Max in order to set up some weak motivation for Max Dillon to think that Spider-Man likes him. Here's the problem I have with this. Yes, I know, he saved Max Dillon, and he saved all the people in the Times Square scene. But with all this destruction caused by the Rhino, and how many people have been killed or injured, seriously, there are no consequences. Nobody calls him out on it. Not the cops, the news, Gwen Stacy, Aunt May doesn't even bring something up while watching the news. Nothing comes up about this. Peter doesn't even have a moment of realization where he goes, oh my god, all those people died when I went off to save Max. I really screwed up. I gotta be careful here. It's important that your actions have consequences. And that's what Tobey and Tom's portrayals experience in their own respective series. I know, it flows on the tongue kind of weirdly. But Andrew also goes on to say this.
Like in Homecoming, every single person on that boat would have died, and it would have been Peter's fault if he wasn't helped or saved by Iron Man. Peter would have died in the beginning of that movie by drowning on his own parachute if it wasn't for Iron Man. Yeah, he saved them in the Washington Monument. Again, that was his fault for blowing it up in the first place.
Okay, maybe some people would have been killed, but if the boat is split right down the middle, odds are there's bound to be some people who would jump off of the ship into the water. Also, it's important to note the FBI was on the ship trying to stop Scorpion from doing what he was doing, which threw a wrench into Spider-Man's activities, which he had all under control. You know, we can all thank the feds for that one. That Peter Parker is just a kid at this point. With Andrew's Peter, he seems to have it all under control and doesn't really seem to have any sort of compunction or self-awareness about what he's doing. Tom's Peter learns the consequences, Andrew's Peter doesn't.
There's also an entire storyline in Tobey's trilogy where he gives up being Spider-Man for a large portion of his own movie, not because his girlfriend was brutally murdered or anything, but because he just wanted to read MJ poetry. And he literally watches an ambulance fly down the street to where people could be dying, and he eats a hot dog and walks away. That's part of the actual story.
Oh, if I had a nickel for every time I've heard this. If I did, I'd be a billionaire by now. There was more to Tobey's Peter giving up being Spider-Man than just MJ. He was failing in school, struggling at work, couldn't make ends meet, barely had time to see Aunt May, who was about to lose her home, and Harry and him were going further and further apart due to the fact that Harry believed Spider-Man killed his father. And when he's told by that doctor everyone has a choice, he decides to have a life of his own. And by the way, that's all because he lost his powers. Due to his personal life being overwhelmed by his responsibilities, his power started to fade, and he wasn't able to fully accomplish saving everybody in that building. The point I'm trying to make here is, like I said earlier, when Andrew Spider-Man lets those people get mowed down by the Rhino, there are no consequences. Doesn't learn a single thing from that incident. Yeah, he saved Max Dillon. Yes, he saved the people in Times Square later on. But instead of portraying Spider-Man as a hero that saves lives, they try to portray him as a Deadpool wannabe. With Tobey's portrayal along with Tom's, you can have your criticisms all you want. Both of them learn from what they experience. And I just remembered something. I'm sorry for jumping around. But the fact that people like Andrew's portrayal because of how snappy and witty he is, the common thing people say is that it's meant to piss off his enemies and keep him from going insane. And yeah, okay, I agree with that. But if your Aunt May is being held hostage by a guy with octopus arms, would you actually be all woohoo, woohoo, woohoo? No, you would not. Same thing goes for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, like when that woman from MIT almost falls onto the train track from the bridge, or the guys in the bodega from Homecoming, or even when his Aunt May is under threat. He doesn't clown around. Tobey's Spider-Man doesn't crack a joke once when Aunt May is in danger. Would people be giving them a similar pass if they acted like Andrew's Spider-Man in this scene? Would Andrew from the escape pod give him a pass if they clowned around like that? I think we know the answer. Probably not. I gotta stress this again. This is not a knock against the escape pod or Andrew personally, but it is kind of cathartic to hear somebody like X Sunny Sunset actually agreeing with me on this, because there's way too much glazing of the Amazing Spider-Man movies that it honestly just it infuriates me. This is a deeper conversation that we can get into in other videos, but among other reasons, this is a big reason why Andrew Spider-Man does not do it for me.